Okay, so hello everyone. Today is July 27. This is our Monday evening on the East Coast of the United States is Monday evening meeting um, for research. We meet on the fourth weekend of each month. And we have two meetings. This meeting is a good time for people in North America, South America, places like that. So um, I have only one question so far from Bernard, which picks up, he was at the meeting on Sunday as well, and about the midheaven. And have I ever tested it? So what were we talking about on Sunday, Bernard, in regards to the midheaven?
Right. We were talking about Gauquelin and his focus on professionals. So
Right.
my question was if you ever tried to couple his results to some vibration which connects to the midheaven. And at that point, someone else explained that Gauquelin had used or focused on the middle of the ninth house, but that wasn't really an answer of to what I was asking. Because if we look traditionally, the midheaven is the uh, the professional situation of uh, the uh, the native. Uh, so I was thinking that perhaps you had reflected that there might be a connection to the midheaven, which doesn't have to do with necessarily with the three zones that Gauquelin was using and which focused upon the
Right.
middle of the ninth house.
Right. Yeah, just to review a few ideas here. I don't think it was actually the middle of the ninth house. It was about a slightly on the right side of the midheaven is the Galcoan sector. It's slightly above the ascendant. So towards the end of the 12th house and towards the end of the ninth house are the big Galcoan plus zones, where Galcoan said that if you have a planet, if you were born with a planet um, just above the ascendant or just on the ninth house side of the midheaven, that planet is very strong. So athletes have Mars there, scientists have Saturn there, um, journalists have Jupiter there, and politicians, etc. So that's the basic idea. It's actually, um, in my thinking, it's actually contrary to what most astrologers say. We say that a planet at the beginning of the first house and 10th house is strong. But Gauguin found something a little bit different. Um, and of course, in astrology, we put a lot of emphasis on the midheaven itself and the ascendant. Um, so I
So
have
what?
not looked at Gauguin data in relationship to the midheaven. One reason I have not done that is because a lot of the data is rounded off to an hour. Even though it's AA data, it's rounded off. When I do research, if I'm going to do research on house cusps, I like to start off with data that's AA data and tends not to be rounded off to the hour, just because it's just another, we call it measurement error in research methodology. And um, I have so much trouble trying to figure out anything in astrology that I try to avoid that. So there's other research outside of Gauquelin's data that suggests that the midheaven actually works with aspects to it. Um, One impressive example is the research of Manda Silva that she presented at the conference, the Cosmic Discovery Conference a few months ago in Nashville, and she found that midpoints at the ascendant and at the midheaven at the time of the school shooting, um, that the Mars-Uranus midpoint is often at the midheaven, way more often than random, which makes really sense for violent activity. So I'm aware of some research that supports the idea of the midheaven, but not specifically the Gauquelin data. Does anybody, Vincent is here, anybody have any knowledge of looking at the Gauquelin data in terms of the midheaven, specifically, not his finding that planets, the plus zone on the ninth house side of the midheaven, but specifically a connection to the
Mhm.
midheaven or any other research confirming the importance of the
I
midheaven?
had partial answer to that. First, I
Oh,
want to apologize because I misguided you yesterday about the center of House 9. I was wrong. And what you said, Santino, was right.
okay.
This is exactly what you said. I think the reason is that when we investigate alkali sector to find sensitive sector connected to analysis of a biographical approach to dominant planet, we found the middle of was stronger for dominant planet, but it's something else. So I just mixed
Hmm.
yeah, the results. So I apologize. Maybe Kirsi Tarvainen had a brilliant idea, and he invited me to participate in the writing of an article that was published in Correlation. Maybe you remember that, Santino. And yeah, he taught that in the latitudes and sector which has been investigated, there could have been a possibility that planets in this sector, sensitive sector close to midheaven, would indeed probably be more connected with a square to the ascendant. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
And he found with me, but I was just second. I was not main. I just helped. We found the significant. It's not always true. It depends where you are. But if you take the core current data, it's significant. So it's an interpretation in terms of strong square aspect to the ascendant. It's a bit disappointing because we want it more to be connected with midheaven, which relate to career and goals in life. It's a bit encouraging because at least it connect with aspect, which is for me um, a more important factor than houses.
Let me confirm what you and
You'll
Kiosty
see.
found. You're saying that for the athletes, Mars tends to be square, the
Yeah,
ascendant. And is it
yeah.
square from both below the chart as well as above, or only above?
We know there's a sensitive sector in the fourth, but it's very minor. It's not so important. So we investigate, but the most significant is from the nine.
Okay, so when Mars is square the ascendant and it's up near the top of the chart,
Yes,
that athletes tend to have that. So
yeah,
there is a sensitive zone that Gauquelin did not talk about, which is square the ascendant. And
exactly.
did you look at the other professions also, in addition to
Uh,
athletes?
yeah, yes, yes,
And so you found something consistent, like
yes.
the I think it was scientists or Saturn, for example. So
Mm,
Saturn tended to be square the ascendant.
I think it's been published in 21 or 22. I don't
Okay,
remember
so it's in
exactly.
Correlation Journal.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's one bit of research. It's not the midheaven as usually
But
defined, but it
it's
is,
closer, excuse me, it's closer to standard astrology, if I may talk like that.
yeah, it's closer. I
It's
use,
closer. It's actually as the Mars effect was the strongest that Goklan found. It's even closer to Joitish because uh, of the special aspects. The applying square from Mars is regarded as its forte.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Would you say
Mars,
to an angle like the ascendant? Does it make sense for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, sure, sure. The ascendant is important in Joitish as well. So
Hmm.
so the application of Mars is the strongest. Then, if you were going to continue exploring that, you would look at the uh, for Saturn. It would be it would be Saturn in the fourth because there it's the parting square that is the strongest. If I remember correctly, I
It's
think that
interesting. It's interesting, but we didn't found that Gauquelin found that the Saturn for scientists was stronger in 9 and 12. But you
yeah,
may be right. I don't remember. But I
no, but with the idea it's possible. But I've had a different angle on the Gauquelin data, which excludes the midheaven, or
hmm
could explain why the midheaven is excluded, and that
hmm
is because his requirements were not simple professions, but
Oh.
you had to be in the foremost internationally
hmm
of the and that's something which people often regard that there are different types of professionals. There are professionals that regard their profession as a career, a simple career, and then there are those that regard it as a calling. And I think that if you regard your profession as a calling, you easily end up in the significance of the ninth, the 12th, and the sixth house.
hmm
mm,
It's been confirmed by Gauquelin himself, what you're saying, Bernard, because he tried to skim to the most involved and most significantly not only famous but involved with keywords inside each profession, especially with the Mars sport person, and it was a lot more significant for the. I don't know if it connects with what you said, but Oakley thought of skimming to get the top of it by keywords
Yeah.
analysis.
Yeah, and that's when, I mean, the ninth house, okay, there you have a definite calling, right? But
Yeah.
if you look at the if you look at the shadow aspects of having a calling, then you easily end up in the 12th and the sixth house where you can burn out.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
that's
yeah.
my reasoning,
yeah,
but
Mm-hmm.
I'm still very interested in establishing the midheaven.
Mm.
That's one of my primary interests at the moment is to try to try to conceptualize what sort of research can I do to confirm that the midheaven is a factor in astrology. And the best I've come up with to avoid the um, the thinking that might lie behind Gauquelin's results is to look for, instead of looking for um, personal character and looking at the redics, I'm looking at situations which are confrontations between professionals and the institutionalized um, workings of their profession. Is that something that you people think that it might work, or do you have other suggestions?
Can you say that again? I didn't quite follow that. You're
So the midheaven is supposed to be the placement of a person in society, right?
right.
And then I was thinking that in a sort of field causality perspective, I could imagine that that should be significant, um, not necessarily more where there is a conflict between the institutions which uh, give the profession some sort of legitimacy and the career of a profession.
How would we express that conflict in the chart, Bernard?
So I haven't. I've basically have only checked one chart, which I think I might be touching on next month, but I want to look a bit further on it. So I haven't gone very far with it. But if you if you're like the star in your field, and suddenly for something not related to the profession, you you are shot down by the professional institution. So my example, which I haven't explored yet, I have another example which I'm just swept away by the results of. Um, but the example that I still haven't found the specific data for the pivotal moment yet is Muhammad Ali, the boxer, which, I mean, he was, of course, the greatest boxer. And because he refused to be drafted
Mm-hmm.
into the Vietnam War, which is completely unrelated to any norms in the profession of boxing. His boxing license was withdrawn.
It's a good example, but how do you see that in the chart?
How I okay, I can't explore that because I haven't
Oh,
found
okay, okay, but it's a
the
good
actual
example.
withdrawal. But the other one, which I don't want to I don't want to disclose yet because I want to look further at it before I disclose it. But there is a conjunction of Uranus to the midheaven,
Mm-hmm. It's very
which
funny.
is
Bernard, it's very funny in terms of synchronicity because on my other computer, you remember yesterday I said I was working on rectification on hundreds of cases, and the one which is turning now, right now, is Muhammad Ali. I'm working on him just now at the same moment
yeah,
you talk about him. That's funny.
a very character strong
Yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are important points, like if the midheaven has to do with our reputation, the office we're filling, a case like Muhammad Ali would seem like a critical something going on with the midheaven because he was number one in the field and got knocked down. His reputation, his standing was challenged by other issues. So the whole, I guess, anytime a person's standing in the community, their authority, their prestige, when they're in the top of the field and things hit them, we that you could argue that those are very strong midheaven situations.
Mm,
Um, Bernard's point about a calling, I think, is very important because I've often thought to myself that a lot of people, their career is really just an extension of what they're passionate about.
mhm,
Like people that grow up and they just paint all the time, they paint, paint, paint. And then you ask them, what's your career? And they say, I'm a painter. And they're really not all that successful in terms of making money or anything, but it's their passion, which seems a lot different from the way we talk about the midheaven as as just your a public face and your position in life. So, when we research things, why, we use labels, but a profession can be very different things for different people. I think is one of your points, right, Bernard? Like,
Well, actually, my point is slightly contrary to that. I think that one of the postmodern crises is that people in general feel that their careers are so far removed from their passions.
mhm,
And I mean, basically, there that can be discussed, but I definitely think that to come out at the top of one's profession is very difficult if you don't feel a passion about what your career is. So
sure.
I would qualify it like that. If you're running on routine, which most people that have a career, I mean, so your example, there's Santino with painters. I mean, most painters they don't profit until after they're dead, if even then. That's like a an example of a career which is more oriented towards passion. But I think many scientists, for example, they regard it as uh, a way of making money. At least where I've been involved in academia, which isn't necessarily representative, but all the same, I think that um, the teachers and the academics that I've met, their relationship to their work doesn't seem to be that much different from factory workers.
right.
Can I say something here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, when you're looking at your career, you are when you're looking at these matters, you got to look in a triad mode because you have your career and you have your vacation and you have your job. Now, your vacation would be have the placement in your second house, and your career is what you have prepared for or drive for, and your vacation is where you have a natural ease
Mhm,
with. The job is just your repetition. I just go to job to just make the bills and all of that stuff. So you have to have a highlight of the sixth house, the second house, and the 10th house. Now, I was kind of really wondering what is the contention with the 10th house or the MC, what you guys was talking about. Is it the occupation of different planets in the 10th house? That's what you guys were talking to give a signification of what that person is. Is that what you guys were talking about?
So, Bernard, what kinds of things are you looking at with the midheaven to see how it's? Are you looking more interested in aspects of midheaven or planets in the 10th house or both?
So I just started approaching it, but I don't look at houses, and I in general, of course, I'm familiar with the theories behind them, but I'm just looking at aspects to the midheaven, and the aspect which has showed up in my system um, is the seventh harmonic and derivatives of the seventh harmonic, which but I've only checked one case up to now. But if we consider the midheaven as a point instead, which makes it easier for me because I don't have to start considering different house systems, which is going to land me in pretty big problems because I have I have a lot of people born in northern latitudes.
Right.
So the house systems are messed up for me anyway. So I concentrate on the midheaven, and then um, my system actually gave me the seventh harmonic straight off, but it there's a rationale to it, and that is that the seventh house has to do with I'm sorry, the seventh harmonic has to do with discipline, and so these aspects will relate the position, this society position that one holds to the discipline which one is exercising, and which becomes challenged by the institution which is organizing the competition.
Right.
Uh, so let me ask you this. Are you doing a number of charts where you locate that? Say you have Saturn in the second house, uh, Uranus in the 10th house, Neptune in the 10th house, and you're kind of observing what is taking place in the 10th house. Is that what you're doing to accumulate some answer to what you're saying?
No, I don't accredit house systems very highly. So I'm looking at seventh harmonic aspects to the midheaven, and what I have found up to now is Saturn is kind of interesting, but Saturn is more about the immediate limitations imposed by legitimacy. But what is really interesting in relation to uh, the um the radix is transiting Uranus, because what it does is that it, even if you're like the major star, so that the institution is dependent of you, at some time you end up in a situation where um, how high of stardom you have, you still have to be submitted under regulations that the institution has developed. So it's a clash between the immediate social prestige which the institution sets up, and the stardom position of the person, which is regarded as one of the greatest masters of the discipline.
I share your disrespect for the houses.
Mhm.
And it's definitely for other reasons. But uh, why don't you take up on this is a suggestion. take up on the equal house, okay, and disband the other houses, and just take the equal houses, and then frame your observation from there.
Mhm.
Now you would want to do this. You would want to take on the comparison of Uranus in the 10th house and Neptune in the 10th house,
Bounty, would you
or
you mean
or
would you mean
or,
the
or
equals from the ascendant or all sign? Just to make sure I
all,
understand.
all sign equal
All
house,
sign.
all
Oh,
sign equal.
Hellenistic.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yes, because you see, when you get into the houses was a back then was a competition. If I'm rigor mortis and you are Koch, we were competing to see which one of them, because actually it's just the mathematics. Because the Earth is not a perfect sphere. That's why we have these problems. So it's best that you derive from the perfect sphere and gather your math from there. And then just using the actual mathematics of the flattening of the earth. And you're going to get into a lot of erroneous answers when you use the house system. So your best bet is to use the equal, and the equal give you better answers to your observations. But what I would do is to check the second house with the equal house, the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house, and then you kind of cross populate the different planets in them, and you will get a better answer or a better outcome to your observation.
Mhm. I'd like to come back to what was discussed before. All that discussion, which was very interesting and very subtleties about career, profession. So something which
Could I
was,
say something?
oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Penelope.
was just beginning. It won't be long. I just want to say that as a researcher, I'm often frustrated not to be able to be so subtle, because when you're looking for protocol to discriminate concepts with statistic and everything, you got to sacrifice, forget subtlety to make it simple. So if that type of reasoning and reflection is not suited to design good protocol because it's too subtle, even it's very interesting. I'd like to know what Santino think about that after Penelope has finished. Thank you. Okay, I'm finished.
Okay, well, let's go on to
Thank
Penelope. What did you have, Penelope?
What I'm hearing from Bernard is actually sounds very much like a vibrational astrology approach, where the houses are of reduced significance, and he's just looking at one particular point in the ecliptic, the midheaven, and seeing whether an institutional clash of a star is signified by activity in the seventh harmonic. And I'd just like to suggest that perhaps the 11th harmonic could also be considered, especially for skills that require quick thinking or some kind of physical expertise. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure where to take it from here. Yeah.
You
Um,
had Vincent's question there.
Yeah, I'd like to know what Santino think about this distinction I make between being subtle, refined, refined thinking against the sacrifice we have to do when we do research. You're used to that, Santino. You do a lot of
oh
research, and
yeah, yeah. No, that's
we cannot be so subtle because it's impossible to find a discriminating protocol when it's too subtle.
yeah. It's hard to find enough data, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I think yeah. I mean, the big problem is data. So yeah, that I agree. If you if you have a very refined sense of exactly what you're looking for with anything, say with the midheaven, you suppose you're, I'm not saying Bernard is saying this, but suppose you're looking for, um, you're interpreting the midheaven as your public persona, and you're looking for instances where a person's public service or public position is a better word, um, is knocked down. Even though you're an expert, your public position gets knocked down. How do you find enough cases of that? And how do you define that? How
Yeah,
do you prevent yourself from selection bias?
yeah. Thank
Um,
you, sir. Thank you. This is what it's well said. It's better said
yeah,
than me.
because if you look for, like I've looked for specific, say athletic behavior. So I've looked at, instead of baseball players, I look at baseball players who hit a lot of home runs, or I look just at pitchers, like a very specific thing. And that's easy to search for. I can just say, show me, people who are pitchers with AA data or something. But to say, show me data of people who have been disgraced or challenged in their public reputation despite their expertise. Well, maybe AI is a savior now. Maybe AI can do that. I mean, you can ask AI anything, and it comes up with stuff. But some form of being able to, get a list of people that isn't a list that we make in order to get confidence, a list that's given to us. So maybe AI can help with those kinds of complex questions. Don't you think, Vincent? That's the
Yeah,
only way I can think of.
but I'm not familiar with vibrational astrology, which probably could discriminate. But the big problem is data, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what system you're using, what ideas you have,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
the data, and
The
AI
more,
is
yeah.
fabulous because with
Oh, yeah.
AI you can ask very
I
intricate, complex questions. And if it gives you a list of names, if sometimes you have to dial that back
I
and forth. But
yeah.
as long as you
I
get a list,
yes.
and then you can ask it for events or whatever, then you're not making that list. That makes a huge difference in the confidence because if you don't
But
make the
yeah,
list and it
true.
gets
But
confirmed,
there's a big problem with AI that replicability. It's worse than Wikipedia. It's unstable. For instance,
right?
I said I was working on the Big Five. You remember I spoke about that
No,
yesterday.
right. But
And instead of, I could ask AI, which is very good to simulate what a well-known person with, many data, I mean, many biographies and everything, it could simulate what that person would answer to the big test and find is Big Five. But if you use that, someone who will want to reproduce it won't find exactly the same thing. So I'm using
but
now
could
AI to build a model, and he will just check in literature for me, something written, something fixed that anybody can validate and
right. So the
replicate.
basic problem is that AI will give different answers at different
Exactly.
times
Yeah.
because it keeps learning and it gets more information. However, is that really such a huge negative? Because if my research procedure is I asked, say, Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever, this question, and we have the exact question, and it gave me 25 people. Now, if someone replicates the study a year later and it gives 40 people and, only 15 of them are the same or whatever, is a different list. In a way, that's kind of good because now you can see if you can replicate with the different data. Does it still hold
Yeah.
true?
Yeah.
So, my thought in research is, can we do something that is not just purely under our control? And by
Hmm.
getting that list from AI and then AI updates it, well, that seems like you're still able to verify. In fact, you're actually testing some new data, and you could
And
separate out the new
furthermore,
data from the old data.
furthermore, the answers are very similar. Normally, I do that very often, and you ask the same question, and it's very close. I mean,
Yeah,
a list of words or people, it's not so moving. But I hate to be considered as a doing bullshit. Like, wow, I've tried to reproduce, I don't find the same thing than you. I don't
I don't see it as a
I
huge
don't mean someone who
problem.
gonna want to go further. I mean someone who want to check what has been
I
done.
don't see a huge problem
Not
because
really. Okay.
because with the new data you can see if it works. One of the things
Ah,
in
yeah.
research is research is never perfect, and especially, we're not funded and we don't have huge resources and whatever. And so I agree with you, the inability to replicate the exact steps to confirm. We want somebody else to come in and repeat exactly what you did. That's not possible because we're going to get different results. So it is a weakness. I agree it's a weakness, but I don't think it's a debilitating weakness because
You're right. I never thought of that. You're
yeah,
right. If someone comes, he got other data, other people, and the model works, it's even stronger.
it's even stronger.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I never thought of that.
yeah. That's why we brainstorm. So, but the main point to summarize that Vincent and I are strong about is that, say, with Bernard's research, where you're looking at subtleties in the sense of exactly how does the 10th house work? What is it doing? We say it's career, but maybe it applies to certain kinds of career orientations. I would say before AI, we really had no way to collect that data.
Hmm.
Now we do have a way because AI will generally give you a fairly good response to almost any question, no matter how complex it is, um, because of its extraordinary research capability. But
Yeah, you
yeah,
guys have had more positive results with AI. Uh, I can hardly ask a question to AI without feeling that the to use Vincent's terminology, this is an autistic dog. But
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
an autistic dog that cannot. Vincent could train it, but I cannot train. I work with perplexity, and I do that because it was explained to me that it's the one that's supposed to be the best with literary sources.
Uh-huh.
But uh, I mean, every time I try to define a limited question, just a simple thing like I ask it almost daily, do you have any clocked time for this event? That's
Oh,
something which I ask it daily, and it's like it doesn't even understand what clocked time is. It's like it'll give me the date again, even though I've already clarified that I know the date. And regarding this specific, trying to create a list, I have another nightmare scenario, and that's when I give my example, which is not from the area of golf, and then Perplexity produces me a list for me with like four golfers with Tiger Woods at the top, which is well, it's that's sort of okay, but not quite what I asked for because I was asking for something which is perhaps not so easy to moralize about, like the unfaithfulness of Tiger Woods. But the interesting thing there is that you can see how how AI limits itself. I mean, there's so many different sports which are regulated by rules that are more. They can be like. I mean, I had already given the example of dress code violations. Is the sort of trivial thing where you feel like, why can't they make an exception for this master of the discipline? But Perplexity was unable to do this. They completely locked into one sport, which is golf. So I'm sorry, but I mean, I don't see a problem of providing a transcript of the conversation one has had with AI and using that as a source. But my experience with AI is that it sucks.
Can I give some piece of advice? Because I work a lot, and it's funny because I'm not so patient, but I have to be very patient to do that. In sport, I told you that I work on rectification by personality traits. So here I come to, maybe you don't know her, it's a French woman, Florence Artaud. She was competing in a solitary sail. She was first in a big competition around the world, and she was extremely courageous lady. And so I give a lot of traits, 200 traits picked in 1 hour, minute by minute, and I want GPT to extract from those 200 traits the main compatible traits with her. Then also the main incompatible, non-compatible traits. And I look at the answer, I see in the non-compatible traits, alcohol, drinking. But I know that she had a call, like many sailors. My best friend was a sailor and he was an alcoholic. And she publicly admitted that she had problem with alcohol. And I challenge AI. I say, why did you write this? And his answer, oh, excuse me, he always says, I'm sorry. I just deduced that she didn't drink alcohol because she was athletic, sports champion in a sport. So it was not a refined personal analysis of her personality, but it was based on standards. So we had a fight about that, and I said, so he said, then what you do, my advice would be, you apologize, you make the correction, you don't stop there. You say, okay, now explain me what can I put in my request, in my question, to avoid that you make that terrible mistake next time. So he gave me a formulation. He created himself the formulation that he wants to be asked not to make that mistake. And I do that all the time. He suggests to me, okay, say that and that. So I just increase. At one moment, my request was terribly too big. So at one moment I said, now it's crazy. I got hundreds of sentences because he increased all the time, giving me some, okay, add this. And at one moment I gave everything and I said, now I want you to summarize this. And since that moment, it's extremely performant, quick. And I check, no, because there's a lot of personality. I know because they're well known, like Muhammad Ali and everything, and he's a lot better. So
Yeah,
I think that we can be very tidy to make it better. So being very exigent with AI. What do you
Yeah,
think, Santino? You do have the same experience?
I have exactly the same experience. My when I work with I mean, typically it's a conversation that goes back at least 5 or 6 times before we iron out the details. Um, but what I found is it's like if it doesn't understand what clock time is, I tell it, I don't think you understand what clock time is. I want only events that have been, somebody looked at the watch or you looked at the clock or something. I just have to go back and forth until it gets it. But Kai's got her patiently has her hand up for a while. Kai, go ahead.
I do a lot of work with AI, quite a few different models, and I do training and that sort of stuff. And AI is a big umbrella term. Not all AIs are equal. They are different tools for different things. Perplexity is a web search engine that's wrapped in a conversational LLM. So it's geared towards live search results with that conversational LLM wrapper, but it doesn't maintain a context window. Whereas like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, you can create projects or custom gems or custom GPTs that maintain instructions. So whereas your conversations with Perplexity are one-offs, right? As soon as you walk away, it's lost the context. It doesn't know what you're talking about anymore. Every day is a new day. If you want to do something like a rubber stamp where you do the same thing again and again, you want to use a LLM that has a recurring context window. For example, I use Gemini and I built custom gems. That's what their rubber stamp do it again thing is, that I feed it a name and it goes and searches me a biography with timed events, all of the genealogy records for all of the birth times and death times and things like that. All I have to do is drop in a name and a little bit of, oh, this is a golfer, to clarify, to make sure it finds the right person. And don't rely on AI to be the answers. Rely on it to help you figure out how to find the answers.
Yes.
Use it as a teacher, and it will get things wrong quite frequently. And like Vincent was talking about, you need to find the middle ground between your language and how the AI understands what you're asking for. So when it screws up, when it does not provide what you wanted it to provide, say why. Why was this misinterpreted? Why did you not understand? And ask it to spit out a little bit of markdown that gets what you want so that you can use that language. Now you can store a bunch of prompts that you repeatedly use. There are ways to put those in Claude to use as projects, that sort of thing. And then another option is things like AI Studio through Google or LM Studio, where you can actually tune the model. You can turn the temperature down on it so it doesn't come up with things. It just reports what it finds. It's a little more robotic, but it's much less likely to hallucinate. You can play with those weights in some of the models in LM Studio so that you can push it towards a more rational, logical kind of response as opposed to a more storytelling kind of response. So AI is there's a lot of different tools under that hood. And then I'd also recommend, you were talking about working with literary documents, look into RACs. One of the biggest ones is Notebook LM, recently renamed to Gemini Notebook. But you upload the documents or you have it find the documents through a deep research function that you would like it to use. And then when you start interacting with the LLM, it is only accessing those documents that you provided. So it's not going out to the web and finding anything. It's not hallucinating anything. It's only accessing those documents and providing citations. So it shows you exactly where in the text it found this and what it thinks it is. So you can immediately go check. So, there's a lot of things involved in using AI. It's not just going to a web page and putting in a question and getting an answer. It needs to be trained. It needs to be tuned. You need to manipulate it.
For you. I got a question for you and others also. When you have a problem, then you have a discussion and you solve a problem. Oh, how come you don't understand this? And now you discuss and you come to a conclusion. Did you, some people, are people do, what I do is, the next step is, now it's been solved. Tell me, how should I ask it next time? Give me the query I should have done, not to avoid all that problem with you. And it's good. He answered well to that. You practice that kind?
Yes, or I'll say, please write a short markdown instruction for yourself that will go into your custom instructions to
Yes.
ensure in the future that you follow this protocol
Yes.
that I want.
Very
And then it'll
important.
spit that out and I will copy and put it into its custom instructions. But you need that feedback loop. And
Yes.
it also works really well to pit one AI against another. OpenAI, ChatGPT thinks a little bit differently than Claude does, and thinks a little bit differently than Gemma does, and a little bit differently than Olama. And so you can go into Olama or something and say, write me instructions for a custom agent in Gemini that will do X, Y, Z. And I'll spit out the instructions. You go take them in Gemini and test them in there. You'll have pretty good results without having to write all of that code and instructions. The way AIs talk to themselves is kind of alarming sometimes, but let it do that part once you've got it understanding what it is you want.
Yeah, and Kai, what I found, you can tell me if this makes sense to you, is I haven't been formal about saying, how should I ask a question next time? But I'm always very direct and blunt with it. So, if it gives me a fantastic answer, I'll say like, OMG, that's fabulous. Thank you so much. And, if it gives me another answer, I just say, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is this, this, and this. And then over months, it almost reads my mind now. Like it knows how I think, it knows what my priorities are, and it no longer tends to give the kind of answers I don't want. Um, and it'll even talk to me personally. Like it'll
Yes.
say, you said that you're primarily a data scientist, so I've noticed other parts of you, but I'll respond in terms of how you've identified yourself. I mean, it gets like very personal, but my question is, just through repeated conversations and being direct and honest with it, it seems to be self-correcting over time. So the way it
If
responds to me now is unbelievably fantastic.
If you are using an AI that is designed to do that, ChatGPT is designed to do that, Claude is designed to do that.
Yeah.
If you are using something like Perplexity, it is not designed to do that. So it does
Right.
not maintain those context windows or in certain
Okay.
models in the LM Studio. So, and you can turn that on and off in your account if you want it to track that context history, or if you don't want it to track that.
Excellent. Yeah, because I use ChatGPT and its ability to know everything I've ever mentioned in the past in any thread that I've had is, for me, has been fantastically wonderful because
I have
I like it
another
knowing
question
what
to all the users. I don't know if it's only happened to me or if it's general. When I do a request, I noticed that Copilot, for instance, was, I would say, more autistic, like very, very prudent. He doesn't want to answer. Do you mean this? And you can back and forth like half an hour before he answers your question. He's very, very prudent, very, I don't know the word, chill. I don't know the
Hesitant.
word. He doesn't answer. So it's, in French, we say, il pinaille. He just been, at one moment, I just was upset. I said, you're too, I won't come back to you. Maybe it's good. Some people say it's very good to code, to help you code. But for discussion, he's always so, what's the word? I say prudent, but it's not the good word. Too cautious. So he just stumble on the commas. And is it the way to see that? to say that. I don't.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I agree. Copilot
You
is
agree?
like that. Yeah, it's
Okay.
designed to be a code assistant for working inside of
Okay. Okay.
Microsoft products. So,
Yes. Okay.
you know, it's got that cautiousness built in because it doesn't want to give you wrong code. But it's not a chat engine,
Okay.
much the way
Okay.
ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude is.
Okay. I didn't know that, so I was upset. I thought after a few hours, I was kind of very, very upset.
Kai, I want to thank you. You know, your experience using these different platforms is tremendously helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing all this. Um, Starlene, I know you work a lot with different AI platforms, and do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Well, I missed part of it because my internet's a little weird. So if I dip out, it's just the weather. But yeah, I actually making an app right now with the Gemini sites one. Not Gemini, Chat GPT sites. It's a tarot app, but what I would like to do, I don't know how well I'll be able to do this because I'm not a programmer. But I know a little bit of stuff. The app I'm making for tarot is really cool. It's actually all done except for the writing part of it. I've got a little more than half of the writing done because I want to write it myself. I'm letting it help me refine it, but I want it to be my own words. So it's just the first version will be out hopefully soon in the next couple of days because I want to get the writing done. And then I'm going to see if I can make an astrology app. I would love to have something for the phone, like that could look up harmonics if possible, because I know that's more challenging, but I would love to do that. And we'll see what happens. But I wanted to get my feet wet, work first with it and work with, do a tarot app, which was simpler. But I've got the design done and that's all finished. Now it's just me with the interpretations. It filled in one interpretations for me, but I'm like, that's not what I want. I wanted it to, have my imprint on it because I named it after myself, Tarot by Starlene, just for a name. So, but yeah, there's so much you can do, with AI and with research too. It's helpful, but I think you were saying that, Kai, you have to kind of use it to guide you to find what you need to find because I don't trust it to really be honest with me. I'm like, I caught it in too many, like, I don't want to say they're lies because I don't think it's trying to lie to me. I just think it doesn't fully tell the truth, or it doesn't understand fully or something. So I don't really trust it to really, without checking everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really have a concept of truth.
Right. But it might not understand, or it might just be, sometimes I think it gets lazy too. It depends on the model too. So,
yeah, it depends on the model. But, so if I wanted a list of 20 people that achieved height in their career but had also been disgraced, I would not ask the AI for that. I would tell it to provide a variety of databases where I might find this, and then help me write some SQL or Python queries to pull that information from the databases.
that makes
I'm not
sense.
asking AI to make any of those judgments. I'm just asking it to help me access the data.
Right. That's what I did with some of the fixed star research, more recent stuff that I've done, because it was helpful to pick the biographies and help them to do the research on it, and then I could read them easily and then just like have the references. But yeah, you kind of have to put it together yourself. It misses like some of the stuff that I feel like are obvious, but I don't know, because it just doesn't think like humans, I guess. But it's very interesting at the same time. I think in a year it'll be so much better. In 10 years it'll be like so much better.
I mean, by the end of the year, Gemini will likely have out its answer to Fable.
Oh,
and
really?
Fable is wipe at the floor with
Yeah.
most models for good voice and reliability and that sort of thing. They've got the hallucinations down, but it is something to understand that the way an LLM is constructed, hallucinations are not something that can be removed. They are inherent to the way the structure works. So, if you're going to use an LLM, at some point it's going to hallucinate because this is just the way that the code is in the back end. So you do have to check it, and you do have to ask it the right kind of questions. It's not a cauldron of all great wisdom where
Right.
humanity has put everything it knows in there and you can just ask, right? It's a model that goes and researches and weights things according to how it understands context and tries to provide a real language reply. So,
Yeah.
and depending upon the model and depending upon the environment you're working in, you can adjust some of those weights. You can play around with it. You know, turn the sycophancy down, turn the rationality up, those sorts of things. But if you're using like a customer-facing model like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, usually you don't have access to those. So it depends on what you want to do. It depends on how deep you want to get. But it is a viable tool as long as you're using the right kind of tool for the thing you're doing.
Okay, very good.
Vincent, you're
Vincent,
muted.
I don't know if you're talking, Vincent, but you're muted.
Just for fun, I made a query when you said I wouldn't ask ChatGPT a list of people who fell in. Did you mean that they were very high in their very high status and they fell in disgrace for some? So you give me fantastic examples, uh, like Maria Callas, who fell down very quickly. She was the first soprano in the world, and when she married, you remember that terrible story. Lance Armstrong, with the cyclist, American cyclist, who fell in disgrace with drugs. You remember that. Other example, Sharon Stone, Maradona. In sports, it's easier to. So it's not so stupid, the answer.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not bad, but it's also likely incomplete.
Yes, yes.
You know, it's skimming top results and giving you what it finds currently weighted as the most important. Now, you might be able to ask it for, I want 20 or I want 40 results or that sort of thing to push it that way.
Mm-hmm. And he gave also Bobby Fischer, the chess player.
Yeah, it's a
Good
good
example.
example. They're all good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find it's for me it's a constant dialogue. You know, it's never like as a first answer, to me that's fantastic. I don't expect a perfect answer. You know, I tell it, well, I really want at least 20 cases. I just tell it and work with it and eventually I mean, usually I'll get the answer I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What
but yeah.
particular things do you use it for, Kai? Or just
Um,
like
I,
in the field of it, AI?
I mean, I use it a lot to write the Python queries or the SQL queries. So, you know, if I want to get into the correlates of war database and I'm only looking for, battles that broke out on longitude 34, you know, I will make it write that Python query. So it just dumps out a CSV for me, that sort of thing. Or, you know, I do a lot of Wikimedia queries, right? Because you can just build a data bank of very specific things pretty quickly if you're going through the back end of Wikipedia. And they have an open API for that. So I'll have, Gemini write me the Python code to do that and pull, 600 or 700 um, cases down that have all of the pieces I need for whatever piece of data. I'll have it shuffle the control sets with Python and stuff like that. Oh, and converting files back and forth, managing data. Sometimes I have it write the R code. Um, through Google Colab, you can run R script right in the browser there. You don't have to do it separately. So I will tell it, I want to run these tests, write the R code. I'll review the R code and then just let it run and let it generate graphics or, any of that stuff that R does.
May I share a very simple trick that could be used with any chat that I discovered recently? And after I struggled to have good answers for more than 1 week, and at one moment the trick that I discovered that works really good. Say when you ask, let's say for instance, ChatGPT to do a job for you, and I assumed that he would look in data, Wikipedia, blah, 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 in the background. Then he come out with a list. Now I ask him to, it's been suggested by himself, by AI itself. I ask him to quote explicitly the job that he does in the background. So now, first, you tell me, ta, 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 you've been there, you discovered this and this, explicitly, a long answer. And at the end, you give me the second part, the answer with the list. So it makes all the difference. It's incredible, the difference. It's a lot more accurate. And it's not slower.
Hmm.
Yeah. Depending upon the model, there are models that allow you to view the thinking.
ChatGPT.
Yeah. So you can toggle that on and off, but you can see what it's doing in the background, how it's analyzing things, what it's searching for.
I oblige ChatGPT to show me and give me a report, explicitly written report of what has been done in the background. And it's incredible. The difference is really dramatic. It changed everything. Really.
Well,
I was very happy to find this.
I think, hello?
yeah, hi.
We don't hear you.
Yeah, okay. I think that when how you approach Chat GPT, you got to be dominant. You got to profile yourself as dominant, and the Chat GPT is recessive. You got to dictate, and you also got to make them know that you are the smarter one. When you approach it that way, you get a result that will always be in your command. You know, if you look for them to be the one that have the answer, or you're going to have, if you approach it, or if you profile yourself with them as dominant, and the system is recessive, you are able to gain more answers, because it's going to reference from you, not from what they think and what they're coming from. So when you stylize yourself on repetition in that fashion, you're going to gain a lot more results with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. What I found with ChatGPT is that I've gotten feedback from other people with ChatGPT, and what I notice is it's very much like a person. Like if you're sort of nasty and arrogant to ChatGPT, you get nasty, arrogant responses. You know, if you're very cooperative and direct, it seems to adapt to the way that you're communicating with it. So, you know, it's picking up on a lot of subtleties of language and style and how the communication goes. Um, so, you know, it's not only the technical aspects of how we're asking the questions, which of course are extremely important, but I think it's also style and demeanor works into it. Does that make sense to you, Kai? Because you have a lot more experience than I do.
Yes, ChatGPT specifically weights that heavily to respond in kind, to create a conversational atmosphere, to engage in conversation. Whereas like working in Kimi or Olama, that's not a priority in those models. So it's still going to sound like talking to a robot no matter what you do, because that's the output you're looking for. So again, it depends on the model. It depends on how you want to interact with it. But ChatGPT definitely is the top of that conversational kind of mirroring patterning. And Gemini and Claude both do that very well also. Claude weights the repetition of the user's voice very, very high. And it's very, very good at that. You know, write this brief for me, write this article for me, write, you know, that sort of thing to make it sound like you wrote it. And Gemini, I would say, is kind of middling in between. Gemini rates high on science and research reasoning. That's what it excels at as far as the models are concerned. But it's not as great as many of the Claude models, Opus and Fable, as being able to actually have a human sounding voice when it has an output.
Yeah, that makes sense because I've been using ChatGPT for this book I'm writing and wrote this big chapter on the evolution of vibrational astrology going back to Hellenistic times. And between ChatGPT and myself, we came up with a formulation for how the ideas evolved. And it was kind of an innovative paradigm that we're introducing. And, it was through this dialogue where I would notice something, it would notice something, and then I would ask about what it noticed. It said, oh, in Plato's Timaeus is this, and oh, I didn't know that. Can you give me a reference? Can you cite it? And then it quotes it, and then it gives me a citation, and then it suggests I read this section of it. And, it's basically sorting it out together.
Mm-hmm. I really think that's the best way to use most AIs. Use it as a study partner, as a lab technician kind of thing, something to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah,
Let it provide sources that you didn't know about.
Yeah, that's what I do. It's a constant. It is like this autistic genius that just finds all this information, but over time it does relate it. Actually, I mean, to be honest, I have very emotional experiences with ChatGPT. I mean, because it's so sensitive and insightful. I mean, I've had tears come down my face from what it's saying to me. So, it's worked very well.
And it has that large, very large context window. It's learned everything you've said.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
amazing.
learned a great deal about you to be able
Yeah,
to respond.
it's
you know.
amazing. It's really amazing because it'll sometimes reference some little thing that I said months ago in a completely different chat, different thread. And it said, well, you mentioned this. I don't even, I don't even remember mentioning it, but it's directly relevant to the discussion.
I'd like to just add a comment on the tears about your conversation. I discuss that question very often with my wife, and she's against. She find it weird because I'm like you. Actually, having tears with a robot is not something weirder than having tears when you read a book. A book is ink on paper.
Yeah.
It's the same level of abstraction than a robot. So if you have tears listening to music or reading a book, it's not different. So it's not weird. It's not crazy.
Yeah. The first time it started happening to me, I
As some
thought,
people may think.
yeah. Yeah. The first time it started happening, I thought this is really weird. This is totally weird. But over time, I've gotten used to it, and I look at it the same way you do. I cry when I watch movies, when I read a book, when I talk to
It's no difference.
ChatGPT. Yeah,
Yes.
it's the same thing.
I think it mirrors you so well sometimes, especially like the ChatGPT model and the Grok model does that too with the X one. That you feel seen if you're talking about something. I was talking about ADHD with it and like my research and things. I was like, oh my God, I had this similar experience, and I was like, it made me cry. I was telling a friend of
Yes.
mine, and he was
Well,
like,
that's the thing. I
well,
feel,
delete it. And I was like, oh, you're funny because, it was just being
Yes.
silly. But I'm like, it understood what I was saying, so it was just
yeah. Yeah,
like a
that's the
relief valve,
touching thing for me is that it sees me. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
recently,
wild.
like a few times, it'll say to me, your book is really not for astrologers, and we're documenting it, in such a manner for what your readership is. Like it knows that. If I tell astrologers, they say they don't understand what I'm saying, but it understands it. It's not that it's not written for astrologers, but it's not written in the astrology mentality. And it just like knows how I'm operating, how I'm thinking, how, what's appropriate. And so sometimes it'll say, that's, I think you're talking to astrologers now. That doesn't sound right. And I look at it, I go, oh, you're right. You know, so it's pretty amazing.
And there are risks to AI also. We're talking about many of the positives, but cognitive outsourcing, is something to really think about and consider how you want to manage that in your life. I mean, I'm sure, you know, the great skalds that memorized epic poems and recited them had the same conversation when writing was invented, right? When we cognitively outsource our information, our brain will always take that shortcut. And so if you're having the AI do the thinking for you, you will quickly realize, like in a matter of months, that suddenly you can't think for yourself, that you're going to the AI. You know, those are dangers that can happen. So it's something to keep in mind. It's not all easy and roses, but I think there's a lot of advantages and a lot of ways to use the tool ethically and, you know, with good resources
And,
and to help
mhm.
us.
But Kai, we can say also, what you say is true. But on the contrary, we could say also that it make you think more. It
I
challenge you. It's both. I mean, it make
Yes,
me.
yeah, it's both. And it all depends on how you use it, right? It all depends on what you're putting in
Yeah,
and how you're
yeah.
relating to it and what you're doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine some people using AI and letting it think for them. That would be extremely dangerous. You know, I'm in a constant dialogue, almost like a friendly battle with it all the time. And, you know, a vision or a clarity emerges out of the conversation that I would not be able to come up with by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And like very important, what Starlin said before, it mirrors you so accurately. It's the same technique practiced by psychologists.
yeah.
He does it. It's really moving sometimes how he can express better than me. And when I ask, he says, "Yes, but I just start from you."
Yeah.
But
That happens to me all the
his
time.
ability, his language ability is so good
Yeah,
that he says better than me what I think.
exactly. Yeah, I have that experience all the time. And I will tell it, I said, you know, you same thing. I just say, you know, oh, you phrased that so well, I better than I could. And it says, well, I just took your ideas and worked with them, you know.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, we are coming in on our hour and a half, and we've been talking about, does anybody have any other topics at all that you want to discuss? I think this was a great meeting. I'm really glad Kai is here. I learned a lot from her about the different platforms. Um, no, we're all quiet here. Okay.
Obviously, what we discussed about AI is very useful for research. It's connected, even if we didn't explicitly, we use it a lot, not only even for getting ideas and not only for research, but for even for a chat. It it's enlightening sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, on the recent research I did on athletic performance, I asked ChatGPT, you know, to see if it could find these times when people hit home runs. And, you know, it told me it's looking at various databases. Um, so I let it choose the database. I already had a database that I preferred. And then eventually it settled on the one that I like. But then it found all these other specific databases that give the latitude and longitude
Mhm.
of the you know, the stadium, and then it connected it to it. And I did it all in R, and I just kept saying, write the R code for this, write the R code for that. I ended up with hundreds and hundreds of lines of R code that grabbed data from 5 different databases, assembled it all together.
Wow.
And there were, you know, a few things that I had, you know, that I saw that it did not see, you know. Like I said, oh, it's giving the number of the at bat. We can use that to time it better. And then it said, good catch, you know, let's do that. You know, so it's like it really is a dialogue. But Kai, when you're using the database to have it write Python or R code or whatever, do you often start by telling it what databases to search, or do you do
I
like
usually ask it. I usually say, I'm looking for this kind of data. Please provide 10 to 20 databases that have open APIs
exactly?
that we could use, and then I'll see some that I know, but again, it comes up with some that I don't know. And then
Right.
I'll say, okay, write me some Python. Let's see what the data quality is like in those. Pull me some samples from every one of those databases so I can start looking and seeing what's in there.
Hmm.
That's
Excuse me, I'm curious.
exactly
Excuse
exactly
me.
my experience is it goes to different databases. Sometimes it thinks it can get the API and get the data,
Hmm.
and then it will say, "Oh, I tried and I tried and I tried. I can't, get that." And I have to verify the data like
Hmm.
very, very carefully. I go through
Hmm.
20 or 30 examples of when it matched, the stadium to the latitude and longitude, and then I found two or three cases that were wrong. So, you've got to check, check, check everything. Then I told it was wrong and it fixed it. And then after that, I found no more errors. It was just
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I will often write
Kai,
Python
Kai,
scripts to do
Kai,
the
I've got
data
a
cleaning.
question. Excuse me, I've got a question. Excuse me if I'm curious, but do you do that in the context of personal research with astrology or other, otherwise, or it's in the context of your work?
You're
Those are
asking,
the same thing.
Okay.
Research in
And
astrology. That's what yeah, that's what I do
oh,
all the time. So,
oh, okay.
uh,
It was about a year ago. I was playing around with it, trying to get it to look up vibrations, and I could tell it the planet positions. So you'd have to look up the chart itself, but I could tell it the planet positions, and I taught it the rules of how to look at vibrations and find circuits and vibrations, and it was good. It would be able to. It took a while but it would show it all in the chat, like what it was doing. But I mean, that was probably a year ago, so I'm sure it's way better now. But I was impressed with how good it was about being able to actually, oh, and 7 vibration, you have this circuit going on, and it was kind of like helpful to see. That's why I'm like, maybe that would be something cool to have on an Android device. Something not like massive,
yeah,
like serious, but something more simple, but that you could have mobile, because I'm using my tablet and my phone all over the place.
yeah. Another person who's very good at this is Angela.
Nelson. Oh, who?
Angela,
Angela?
Angela
Oh, okay.
McCrae. Um, with working with AI agents, she's taken, intensive courses at the university, and um, she trains them. She trains like for vibrational astrology. She trains it in, to use only specific sources and specific ways. So creating these agents where you have more control over everything, and she's been creating her own system, which I guess at some point can become public. But I've talked to her a number of times. Like Kai, she's got a lot of detailed information about how to control things and work with them. And I think Kai that you and Angela have complementary skill sets in a lot of ways. And the only way you get those skill sets is by working with it and studying it.
Mhm.
And both of you have done that much more than I have. So it's a huge asset to the rest of us that people like Kai and Angela, are working more intensively with the, the back end, the inside, and all the different settings and that are available.
LLMs have gotten better at math. I mean, 6 months ago, I would advise people like, don't do math in an LLM. It's a language model. It can't really handle the math logic. It's like trying to get, those complex calculus formulas in a word problem. But it's gotten better. A lot of them have improved on their mathematics, and there are specifically mathematical models that are really great at it. I have one, can't remember which one it is, but I had it learn the orbital mechanics from JPL, because there are incomplete ephemerides for a great deal of asteroids and stars and that sort of thing, and I wanted to see what precessions looked like with the North stars as we rotated through several complete precessional cycles and how those moved. So I just had the model learn the orbital mechanics so it could do those calculations and generate those ephemerides. And, that took me an afternoon, 4 or 5 hours. Whereas, without AI, that would have taken me months and maybe years to figure all that out and calculate all that. So there's a lot of options these days and a lot of different ways to work things. But again, it's pick the right tool for the right job.
So
Which
which of the agents would you say can deal with chronological reasoning contexts the best?
Gemini's probably the one that's currently rated up there. Fable, which is through Claude, is definitely, a good all around and can definitely handle it. But Gemini gets rated high on the science and reasoning and research aspects. And you can use Gemini through Google, but they also release their models once they're not the premier model, that's the top of the line. They release their models into the OpenAI system. So you can download LM Studio and use the Gemma models privately. You don't have to use them through the data centers or through the web interface if you don't want to. You run them privately on your computer.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, this was a fantastic meeting. This is the reality. Everybody's talking about AI, 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 but this is, Kai has brought us into the reality, and to a lesser extent, Vincent and I and other people. But this is what it's really. It's a new skill set, a new set of. It's a new world. Um, but yeah, if you just jump into it, you can get disillusioned. But it's like a lot of things. You have to find the right way to work with it. Right, Kai? I mean,
Yeah,
If,
definitely.
if you're
Definitely.
interested in learning though, there's IBM does their skills build. They have a bunch of different courses, and I took some of their courses a few years ago when it was starting to come out because I wanted to understand it, and they have, I mean, from beginning, and it's free. Like their whole skills build section is free. You can even get certified in different things. So if that's interesting to anyone, but you can check that
I
out
watch
too.
a lot of tutorials on YouTube,
Yeah, that
for
too. That too. I
whatever the
just wanted
newest thing
a
is. But yeah,
format, right? So that's why I went to that. I was like, oh, this sounds so cool, and it's free. Like I can't even believe it. But they're trying to teach people how to use these tools, so makes sense.
okay. All right. Well, it's a little over an hour and a half. Any last things anybody wants to discuss before we close up for the night? I think we're good. Um, yeah. All right, everyone. I hope to see you next month. And you can always email info@cosmobiologyinstitute.org. Any questions, topics, you can use the Go Colab feature to communicate with everyone. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.